Hello everyone and welcome back. Today you're about to witness pure chaos on the chessboard. I made these two bots play 100 games against each other, and this was the craziest game they produced. The attacking genius of the Tal bot versus the cold, calculating precision of the Magnus Carlsen bot. And trust me, what happens in this game is absolutely insane. So the game begins quietly with e4, immediately taking control of the center. Black responds with c5, the Sicilian defense, an aggressive and ambitious choice. White continues with knight to f3. Black plays knight to c6, and now white strikes with d4, directly challenging black in the center. Black captures c takes d4, and white recapture the pawn with the knight. Now black plays g6, preparing to fianchetto the bishop on g7. This setup is called the accelerated dragon Sicilian. White responds with c4, a book move, entering a very complicated Sicilian variation. Black fianchetto the bishop, attacking the knight and controlling the long diagonal. White answers with bishop to e3, defending the knight on d4. Black develops knight to f6. Now white plays knight to c3, defending the pawn on e4. Black responds with short castling. White bishop goes to e2, preparing to castle as well. Black now plays d6. White castles short, bringing the h1 rook into the game. Black develops bishop to d7. White responds with queen to d2, bringing his most powerful piece into the game. Now black captures on d4 with knight takes knight. Taking back with the queen as white is dangerous because of the fianchetto bishop on g7. So white captures with bishop instead, and then black moves bishop to c6, targeting the slightly weak pawn on e4. White plays f3, a solid defensive move. Black, finding nothing to do on the king side, plays a5, trying to gain space on the queen side. White responds with b3, adding a defender to the c4 pawn. Black notices that c5 would be a strong square for his knight, so he plays knight to d7, preparing to occupy c5 and potentially trade the bishop. White goes bishop to e3, refusing the trade and keeping the bishop on the board. Black plays knight to c5. White develops his rook, and black also develops his rook. White reroutes knight to b5, aiming for d4. Black responds with queen to b8, unpinning the queen. White plays king to h1, a waiting move, and black plays b6, adding a defender to the knight. White moves knight to d4, attacking the bishop on c6. Black responds with bishop to d7. White plays king to g1, another waiting move. Black plays queen to b7, vacating the 8th rank. Realizing there's nothing to do on the queen side, white slowly prepares a queenside attack by moving rook f1 to d1, freeing the f1 file for a possible bishop reroute. Black plays rook a8 to d8, centralizing his rook. White responds with bishop to f1 because it blocked the queen from moving to f2. Black also realizes there's nothing to do on the king side, so he plays h5, expanding space. White responds with queen to f2, preparing a kingside attack. In this position, black finds it hard to play, so he plays rook to c8, a waiting move. White plays h3, preparing g4. Black responds with rook f8, another waiting move. Seeing that the pawn on e7 is undefended, white decides to play queen h4 first before g4. Black moves rook f8 to e8. White plays queen f2, preventing black from attacking his queen with the bishop. Black plays rook to b8, another waiting move. Now white starts his queenside attack with g4. Black must take the pawn on g4, because if he played a nonsense move like queen a8 and didn't take the pawn, white will be the one who will take the pawn on h5, and the black king will be exposed and open for attack like rook g1 or queen g2 in the future. So let's go back and watch how the game goes. So black captures the pawn on g4 with h-pawn, and white recaptures the pawn. And black, sensing the incoming attack, plays f6, leaving f7 as a potential escape square for the king. White plays bishop to g2, a seemingly quiet move, but you'll see later how powerful it becomes. Black plays king to f7, aiming to bring the rook from h8 to stop white's queen h4 idea. Now I want you to guess white's next move. Only a genius could find it. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to find white genius move. Time's up. White plays f4, a truly genius move, leaving 2 pawns free for capture for black. Black captures the free pawn on g4 with the bishop. White responds with f5, a brilliant move controlling e6 and g6, and even sacrificing the rook on d1. Black takes the rook with the bishop. White plays e5, opening a diagonal for the bishop on g2, attacking the queen on b7. Black moves queen to c8, dodging the attack. White plays e6 check. Black's king moves to g8. The only way to defend is bringing the white-squared bishop to h5, but white captures that bishop first, because black cannot defend without it. Black plays g5, preventing white's queen from going to h4. White moves queen to e2, aiming for h5. Black plays d5, trying to tempt white into capturing with the bishop to stall time, but white ignores it and plays queen h5, threatening check on f7. Black plays rook f8 to prevent queen f7 check. White captures the free pawn on d5 with the bishop, and now the square the bishop left will be used by white's king, while the rook moves to h1. Black can't find a defensive move, so he plays b5, a completely nonsensical move, wasting time on the queen side. White immediately punishes with king g2, preparing the rook to h1. Black plays queen to e8, trying to trade queens to survive. White refuses with queen h2. Black plays b4, another nonsense move. White moves rook to h1, threatening mate on h7. Black sacrifices the rook on f7, trying to buy time. Pawn takes rook with check. Black accepts his fate and moves king to f8. White captures with pawn takes queen check. Black takes the promoted pawn. White plays knight e6 check. Knight takes knight. White captures the knight. Black plays rook d8. White moves queen h5, an unstoppable mate on f7. Black trying to stall time with rook d2 check. Bishop takes rook. Black plays bishop h8. White captures the bishop, checkmate. And that is how the game ends, absolute chaos. A fearless attack, multiple sacrifices, and an unstoppable checkmate. Personally, this might be one of the most chaotic games I've ever analyzed. If you enjoyed this battle between attacking brilliance and defensive precision, make sure to subscribe. There will be many more insane games like this in the future. And trust me, they only get crazier.